Stream the meeting. Where are we going? Setting up your meeting for YouTube Live. Done. Redirecting to YouTube.
Stream the
no.
meeting. Where are we
Looks like we're on
going?
the Hopeful Resistance page.
Setting up your meeting for YouTube Live.
I can hear your audio.
Yeah, I just turned it off.
Oh, okay.
But we're actually live streaming to YouTube right now.
But it's on your page, not Hopeful
No, but it's
Resistance.
on Hopeful Resistance. But if you can live stream to your page.
Yeah, I'll definitely be able to. I'm trying to figure out how to use the virtual camera because I've only used it like one time. Start virtual camera.
See, here's the thing. This is showing just me. It's not showing both of us.
Well, that's kind of lame.
Okay, let's see what the edit video is. It's giving me this option to, oh, no. No. Yeah, that doesn't make sense. How do they do it? No. How do they do that when they, oh, how do people do it through Zoom where they show everybody?
I don't know. Oh, there we go. I have cameras on both now.
Okay, well, I'm going to shut this page down.
This is actually so for the live stream on my end, it's going to be perfect because you're going to be basically in the center of my screen, and then I'm going to be in the bottom left and at the top technically because I can't hide the camera like it's showing. Oh, hide self view. Oh, this is perfect because now you can see me. I'm not live streaming yet, but I'll be on whenever I'm live streaming, I'll be where I normally am, and then you'll be like dead center on my screen. Does that make sense?
It does. And
Yeah.
I'm actually looking to see, yeah. Okay, we are live streaming and I can change it from private to public.
Yeah, when I start streaming, it just goes. We'll be
But
streaming, and I
you
could.
could be streaming. Okay, I'm not
Go ahead.
communicating and I apologize.
It's all right.
You're live streaming to Aaron the Quill right now.
Mm-hmm. I'm not live streaming yet, but I will be. Yes.
I am currently live streaming to Hopeful Resistance,
Okay.
but it's private. I'm gonna click on this real quick, okay? Hopeful Resistance live stream. And what are we talking about?
Oh, nothing right now.
Inaugural, INAUGUR, inaugural live stream.
Oh, that's weird. Okay, so how do I get it to?
So it looks like it live streams to whatever I'm logged in at.
Right. So we're gonna go, and I wanted to.
Okay, and this week, we're just talking about stuff, right?
Yeah. Oh wait, hold up. Let me. Maybe. Oh hell yeah! There we go. Oh, that's way better. And say something so I know this is working correctly.
It's hard to pick one
Okay.
of, so yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's perfect
Back.
because now I can have the YouTube chat like right on the screen like we would like, and then the YouTube chat should still
Yeah,
appear.
I'll have to, you're gonna have to monitor your YouTube chat.
Yeah, of course. I have a.
So hang
I'll
on
just.
here. I'm trying to,
I'm gonna
oh,
start my stream.
yeah, go ahead. I'm gonna start mine. Done.
Um,
save. And now I'm going to share the link. Channel content. Click link, get shareable link. And actually,
So I'm going public. Category is people and blogs, I guess. News and politics.
I didn't pick a category. I think I already have.
I think I'm gonna do news and politics, huh?
Sounds good. All right, so I'm
No, it
going,
is not made for kids.
yeah, I did not check those things.
Let's see, branding. And then I have a nice Hopeful Resistance logo here. And then create broadcast and start streaming. And then I can share. I'll send you the link right now.
Okay. Now, what's your link?
I just sent it to you.
Oh, okay. So this is to, if people want to follow on your,
Yeah.
right? Okay, copy. Right, let's see. Hang on. Okay, so I'm gonna go to the, I'm just trying to keep up with all this here.
Yeah, of course.
Videos.
And I have a lot of practice.
Of course you do. Okay, so I'm gonna click on live. And I'm going to click on this, but I'm gonna turn off the channel.
Yeah, you already tagged my, okay. And I'm gonna put a thing on threads as well from me. Profile.
So I just need to, but I'm gonna, okay, there we go. Moderation. Okay, so we got this. Hey, look at us. Okay, we are, as long as I just don't look at that. Facebook. Okay, I don't need to share your link, do I? Or
No, I wouldn't say so.
share my link. So you share your link, people can watch from your page.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. Okay, I'm gonna start the recording.
I think I spelled resistance wrong. I gotta go adjust the broadcast.
That might be important. Okay, well, hello and welcome to Hopeful Resistance. This is a podcast that Aaron, my son, hello, say hi, Aaron.
Hi.
Wakey, wakey.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, Aaron and I used to talk every week, and we talked about politics and how to survive the madness. And over time, particularly when things begin to get really crazy, we said, "Hey, why don't we just record these and make a podcast of some kind, so that at least we could prove to our grandchildren that we resisted."
Yeah, that we did our part.
We did our part.
And you didn't say it, but I'm sure you were going to. For the first time ever, we're live streaming it. We've always
We're live
pre-recorded.
streaming on 2 channels.
Yeah. So we've generally only ever recorded and then uploaded some of the edits, but this is like the first time we're going like full on live stream.
We just are like fearless. What's the worst thing that's gonna happen?
I'm gonna say something real stupid.
Yeah, that's the thing. What that reminds me, I need to go into, let me see if I can
and there's definitely going to be,
this is not for children.
and there's definitely also going to be some things that we are going to do differently. Like for example, I know we like to do the five calls, and I think whenever we do that, I'm going to have to be muted for probably the opening of it if we decide to do it.
I think that
so I'm dox myself.
We're not going to self-dox. And for anybody who doesn't know what doxing is, that's when you give out your personal information and batshit crazy people can find you. We don't need. That's like, no, hard no. Okay, I'm trying to click through, get over here to, okay. I am now, all right, so. Well, what we normally do on the podcast that we record is that Aaron gets to pick what we talk about every week. And so certainly this week, just because we're live streaming, what the hell, we're not gonna change the foundational aspects of it. And so
These are the
Aaron,
things that these are the things that define us. Yeah.
right. So what in the world? I mean, there are so many
Many
things.
things.
What is the thing this week? Or is there a thing? Or are we going to decide this?
I think this week we were going to talk about how do you discuss, I guess, the current political landscape with family. Um, so I guess more specifically, how do you talk to your family about MAGA? And I know there's like two sides to it because like for me, it's the side of how do I talk to my children, my older, most of my older children, about the current about politics, and then I know there's also the side of it where like if you have family members that are MAGA, how do you talk with them about politics?
Yeah, I also think it's important. I mean, clearly we're flaming crazy liberals,
Oh yeah, me. I mean,
Right?
all I want to do is abort babies, just pretty much all the time. I'm just living
Wake up
to
in the
abort
morning
them.
thinking about
Yeah,
that.
if there's
Oh, wait,
Christians, I want them all dead.
you want to give all your money to the illegal.
Oh
The
yes, yes, yes. And I believe in full open borders all the time.
all
Just
the
all
time,
the
all the time, all the time. Uh,
time.
I don't even know where to go with that.
If in
But
case
I
you
will
didn't
say,
catch that, if you're a little
I
neurospicy like
wanna,
me,
I wanna,
sarcasm.
I wanna also talk about. I want to spin the topic of how to talk to your family. How do we talk about MAGA and the right wing and conservatives and um, people who don't agree with us in general? I think that's an important conversation. So the family aspect, first of all, I think it's important that we recognize that there's a difference in having talking to your children and talking to your adult family members are two entirely different conversations.
Oh, I agree.
And so you're trying, I mean, you're going to have to speak to how you talk to your children because I, you're my youngest.
Yeah, I know. And I'm pretty easy to talk to about this.
Yeah, well, and for us, I predominantly we disagree. I don't know about your older brother, but I think that it's safe to say, for the most part, our family is at least central,
Yeah. Well,
not not.
and I would say probably not as civically involved, which is, you know, not, I mean, it really, I feel like if you're going to be civically involved, it should be, I mean, I think everybody should be. But I also feel like trying, like forcing, expecting people to be civically involved maybe isn't always fair. So,
Well, so the conversations you're going to have with your kids, the interesting thing is the thing I hear about is, don't shove your liberal beliefs in my face from the people who are, Jesus loves you bumper stickers, cross wearing, did you go to church door to door,
yeah.
kind of stuff. They don't want you shoving your liberal beliefs down their throat. But I do think it's important when you're having conversations with your children that we don't become what we don't
Yeah,
like.
so my oldest, she's 17. She actually just shipped off to, I think we talked about it briefly last time, but she actually just shipped off to Army Basic last week. I guess, well, it's not even been a week. We got to talk to her yesterday. It was awesome. But so
Tuesday.
yeah, and but one of the things that anytime that we would engage in political discussions, I try to. I think the first thing I try to always tell them is that just because I believe a thing doesn't mean you have to believe it. And if you don't believe the things that I say, or I think I actually put it as you don't have to believe the things that I say, and I highly encourage you to go and double and like look into it. Don't just take my word for it. And I know that for her, especially, she used to do that a lot. She used to go and like look into the things that I would talk about.
You had to know what you were talking about because she's going to come back and say, but wait,
Well, actually, and I didn't actually get a whole lot of well actuallys, which is funny because you, as a 17-year-old, I mean that a well actually is basically her entire. That's like her second.
right?
It's like her second language. But
Well,
no,
I mean, every teenager wants to one up their parents. I mean,
yeah.
that politics. But remember too, with conservatives, politics are wrapped up pretty tightly with religion. And
Oh
so
yeah.
if you question my politics, then you're also questioning the religious beliefs. And I think and I will say, based on the conversations I've had with people who were raised conservative and who were raised religious, which tend to go hand in hand,
Right.
There is guilt, shame, fear. I mean, there's a lot of emotions in that, but I also think you could raise your kids liberally, open-mindedly, and have such loose boundaries that you're not encouraging them to engage in critical thinking because you don't want your children to just like randomly accept anything. You want them to say, okay, well, why is this a good or bad thing?
Right. And I think that's the other big part of it. And I mean, it's interesting because they're both all I mean all so two of my kids are Gen Z and I guess the other two are technically Gen I don't know how these things work these days. In my head they're all Gen Z, but I guess not.
Right.
Anyway,
Everybody's a millennial, everybody's a boomer, and it,
yeah, and I mean it just helps us understand like what kind of culture they're raised in. And we don't live in a by any means a blue area.
yeah.
I guess more like a blue. It is kind of a blue pocket for the whole state because I'm from Texas. And that being said, I mean she came out pretty liberal leaning, and I've definitely had to push back on some of the things that she gets exposed to that are probably a little further left, right? Where some of the things that is pretty that that are pretty people want to paint as black and white, but they aren't necessarily black and white. And so I've tried to always make it where if she believes a thing, I try to push back on it, and whether that thing is something more left than me or more right than me, I'm always just trying to make her constantly question whatever it is that she thinks is right.
Right.
Um,
Well, here's the thing. Um, that's what critical thinking is.
right.
Part of the I'm editing our video with hashtags in case you're wondering what I'm
Oh
doing.
no, it's totally fine.
The thing that I find most concerning is when we ban books and as parents, when we're trying to teach our children and about politics or talk to our children about politics, when you eliminate opposing views, you remove every opportunity for critical thinking.
Yeah.
It's so important that, okay, if you think abortion is wrong, instead of beating your child over the head that it's wrong, it's wrong, it's wrong, explain why you think it's wrong.
Right.
Give them the opportunity to argue the other side.
Right.
You know, help them solidify their beliefs, whether they agree with you or not. Um, the thing about how we talk to our family, how we talk to our children tends to be indoctrination from both sides.
Right.
I would say more from conservatives because it's so wrapped up in their religious beliefs.
Yes, sorry, the religious beliefs. Actually, so an interesting kind of fact. I went ahead and added mine. I need to use hashtags more. I'm really bad at that. Um,
Well,
One of the things that has come up recently in my home is if my children becoming interested in religion. Most recently, my oldest son brought home a Bible, and I was like, okay, man, you know, I read that thing because I think you remember there was a point in my life where I wanted to be a pastor, and I was pretty.
I remember when you guys were going to Church of Christ.
Yeah, I mean, we were well. I don't want to say bought in, but we were well
I think all by nature want to believe in something. And I
greater.
do still believe,
Yeah,
I do still absolutely believe in a higher power. The definition of that is beyond my comprehension, but I don't believe religiously like I used to. But I think you guys were finding your way. You'll remember I never tried to push religion on you guys growing up.
right. And well, and I'll say this. I think it happens to every kid if their parents are regular churchgoers because I grew up going to church. I grew up doing vacation Bible school. I grew up doing Awanas and doing, a lot of that.
As a mom, you guys went to a lot of church stuff
Yeah,
because I needed a village to help me raise. Y'all were active, mentally active, physically
right.
active. And
And I'll say this. I never minded those things. I
we had
think
good,
that
I don't think
yeah.
we ever had bad church
Right.
experience.
And as far as and so that is all to say that whenever my son brought home a Bible, I'm not the kind of dad that's like, we're not gonna read this kind of garbage in our house. I'm like, okay, buddy,
Just
start reading it.
where did he get the Bible?
So there is again, this is Texas. There is a group at the school that they don't meet inside the school, they meet in a courtyard at the school. Because I think, I don't know, it's a fucking loophole.
Thin little line. Yep.
Uh, yeah, and so they're a club at the school, and one of the things that they do is if you attend the club, they give out free Bibles, and I think they give them like NIV Bibles, which if it I
That's
told
better
them
than King James.
yeah, well, I told my kids if you're gonna read, I bought back whenever I was back when I read the thing, the New American Standard Bible, and if you remember, the reason I went with that one was because it included all the Dead Sea Scrolls. It includes like a lot of the
Yes, and some of and I'm open to being wrong on this. I will point out that um, I'm open to being wrong on this. That the translation is a little more accurate in that it's uh, didn't make a lot of the switches with the homosexual
Yeah,
concept.
I mean, well, and that's the thing about it too is it was a direct retranslation of original text because the thing about like so you have the King James and then the New King James and then the NIV and the both the New King James and NIV are translated from the King James, right? Technically, it's the King James and then the New King James and then the NIV is a retranslation of the New King James to make a more modern language. And then New American Standard was like, oh no, we're going to start from scratch. We're going to completely retranslate everything. And so that was one of the reasons why I wanted it at the time. And I told him, I go, if you're going to read it, you should read this one. And he started reading it, but he's a 15-year-old
Well,
boy.
newbie. I mean, again, let's be honest. Teaching religion is even more, or helping to have the conversation about religion when you're not believing the religion that they're engaged in. Yeah, reading the Bible all by yourself, you just don't even know where to start. And
Right.
why they put the Old Testament at the beginning is just foolishness to me.
Yeah, and I mean I think in general, because he started out with the reading of Genesis and he's got questions and I'm trying to I'm doing my best to answer those questions, and then of course I'm telling him I'm like if you want to get a little more understanding of the church groups that you're joining, you should be reading like what you're saying. You should be reading the New Testament. You shouldn't even be bothering yet with the Old Testament because it would all be
Basically,
historical
it's
anyway.
yeah, it's like the prequel,
Yeah.
but it is what it is. So talking to your children about politics is back to you'll see us do this a lot. Like
Oh
if
yeah.
you watch us do this, we are rabbit holers and we're fine with it, right?
Yeah, we're gonna go right off the cliff every time.
Off the
Luck,
cliff.
luck, luckily the car flies, so we always bring it around.
Oh, wait, a butterfly. Um, so I want to talk about, and I'm really not probably the best person to express this, the whole talking to your family about politics. My theory is don't. If you know you disagree, my my advice is don't, because what ends up happening, and as a reminder, I'm a retired behaviorist. When you get together with your family, unless they are just extremely unusual and an exception on every level, you engage with one another as adults like you did when you were children.
Oh yeah,
You can be 40, 50, years old, and you're still going to be talking to and be talked to like you were when you all were last together, which is usually in your teens. Very rarely do families want to get together to have rational and reasonable civil discourse about politics. And so my advice is don't. My second piece of advice is if they don't respect the don't, then you at this point in the world that we're in right now is to disengage. Now, the level of your disengagement is in direct proportion to the level of respect or disrespect you experience, right? So
right.
you can just disengage and be busy. And, if all they want to do is talk politics, then this is just a season of life where you're not communicating with them strongly. If you're, a dumbass snowflake liberal, perhaps the disconnect is a little bit harder. I will say that I don't think that we're talking about politics anymore. And this is why I think it is important that you talk to your children. We're talking about moral values and the right.
Yeah.
They're talking about pro-life and, God and Jesus's love and all that stuff. And we think that we're talking about respect for individual humans and
Well,
uh,
and some of that stuff is so like I get really frustrated, especially like watching people on the right talk about how they're Christian and then they're ready to cast people out of the country And I think it's
To just stop right here because
yeah.
today is Sunday, June the 1st, and I think it was Friday. There was a senator, and I've got to find her name
Oh
again.
yeah, that one. That crazy yes.
That
The
crazy,
everybody dies.
that crazy bitch. Because
Okay.
in the middle of and I don't call women bitches much, but this woman fully
Yeah, and
has.
I saw the apology. See the apology video today?
As a matter of fact, I posted. I'm pulling it from Facebook. So it is. Hang on. Uh, well, hell, where is her name?
Just things that
Joni
you
Ernst. Joni Ernst. And so, in a town hall meeting, uh, and this is relevant to our discussion on politics and religion. In a town hall meeting, she was explaining why she voted for the billions in tax cuts to Medicare and Medicaid. And there was a panicked woman who was like, people are going to die. And her response was, the senator's response was, well, we're all going to die for heaven's sake. And so, I mean, that did not earn her any kudos in the middle of the town
tell
hall meeting.
me, yeah, tell me that you're not, tell me that you're a rich, struggling person who's completely disconnected from reality without actually saying it.
Well, it gets worse, and it ties
Because it,
in
yeah, of
the
course, because it couldn't get better.
it could because she couldn't actually apologize. So her apology starts out, honestly, I was impressed. I thought, wow, she's really sorry. And then you realize it's a passive aggressive apology where she says, well, I'm just glad I didn't have to start talking about the tooth fairy. But
Yeah, well, oh,
it,
she says, I
it
didn't
gets
know that
better.
I didn't know that everybody didn't know that we're all gonna die one day.
I mean, truly,
Like,
that was
okay.
aspect. But then she says, but if you want eternal life, I'm happy to introduce you to my Lord and Savior, Jesus
Oh
Christ.
my God. Kill
Now,
me in a
here's
video game.
the sketch, folks. If you're going to wrap up your politics so tightly with your religion or vice versa, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to have your politics align more closely with your religion.
Yeah.
Feed the hungry, welcome the homeless, stuff like that. If you're going to do that, but this is where it's really hard to explain to children. Politics are moral values. You express your moral values through your politics.
Yeah, almost always.
No, I can't think of a case where you don't.
I'd have to ponder on it for a while.
Well,
Because I'm sure that there are some aspects
it's
of
by some crazy aspect like road repair or,
yeah, that's what I mean. Like I'm sure like and I guess to be clear, I don't mean for like things that are like the common good, right? Like I
okay, yeah.
mean,
Well, like if we're talking about do we want, I remember when I lived in Mansfield, there was a huge political debate about are we going to bury they put fiber optics in down the country club road and it was huge, like a big kerfluffle because they should be buried. We shouldn't have to look at that. And so that's a political issue that has no moral value.
right. Well, and
That's
that's
a,
what I mean. If yeah, like there's just trivial things that are probably not connected to some moral
yeah, I can
there's not
agree with
some moral connection.
I No, I can totally agree with that. Well, so my thing is then if we can't have reasonable conversations with our family about politics, um, I mean, I don't understand. Hmm. If the conversation is having if our conversation is about how to have a conversation with your family about politics, I guess my big question is why do you want to? If you
Right.
disagree, what's the point? Now, typically, what I've seen with conservatives want to have the conversation with their liberal family members to smack some sense into them. I saw
Right.
that. Yeah, okay. That doesn't sound like a civil discourse to me, but my question is,
Well, isn't it always so interesting that like the conservative mindset is, oh, we disagree on politics, fight me. What? I mean, if it's me, I'm like, all right, let's go. But like, I just like, what kind of
let's say
fucking
it's like,
argument is that?
you know, well, I have. yet to meet someone who disagrees with my liberal viewpoints. No, I'm not gonna say yet. I rarely meet someone who disagrees with my liberal viewpoints, who's willing to engage in civil discourse that does not involve
It doesn't devolve
run.
devolve into fucking fight me, bro.
I mean, or you're just a dumb snowflake, or you're just a fucking libtard, or I did.
Yeah.
Okay, this is supposed to be civil debate. The two examples I can think of is when you and I posted the episode about DEI, and we triggered so many people just because I made the graphic that says you don't like DEI because it makes you uncomfortable, and everybody who commented clearly had not watched the video.
Oh yes.
One guy,
Is
I think his name was Jason. So Jason, if you're watching, kudos to you for that. He made the comment that, oh, mother son, and then it wasn't a sexual innuendo. He was just like, oh, well, you mommied him and he's a baby or whatever. We engaged in a conversation and he ultimately apologized for that.
nice. Yeah, I remember we had
I
talked
sent
about
you
that.
the
Yeah.
screenshot. Yeah, I sent you the screenshots of it.
Yeah.
I can say out of 150 conversations that I've had, that's one. Okay, one. We had one.
Yeah, that's it. You know what? If that's the only one, it's progress. We got somewhere.
And see, I don't look at it that way. I know you do, and I know what's her name? Laurel?
Lauren, talking about Lauren Hug,
Lauren, yeah, who came on the show.
right?
I know, if you just reach one person, and I'm just like, yeah, no, not worth it to me. These conversations with family members who disagree, I think it's more important to talk about boundaries to get out of the conversation than it is to how do you have the conversation? Because I have yet to see where two passionately opposing family members have a civil conversation, because as I said, you default back. If you left home at 18 and you go back at 35 to try and have a conversation about politics, you're still 18. You're going to be
Uh,
talked to like you're 18 and treated like you're 18.
I mean, so I've been able to have, and I don't mean you, I've been able to have conversations with other people in our family regarding politics. Generally, uh, it it's only on things that we agree on.
Around the maypole on this one.
Yeah, well, because like yeah, because it has to be about topics that you agree on. Because I know back like whenever I met some of my family back in like 2021, 2022, like whenever everybody was fighting about COVID all the time, that whenever we would start, anytime that COVID would enter the discussion, it'd be like, oh, I don't really want to talk about COVID. And in my mind, it's like, okay, do you not want to? Why? Like, is it because you- you're not
I
gonna
think
you're not vaccinated, you're not gonna get
it's like
vaccinated?
I think it's absolutely things like that. Oh, sorry, I just got a
Yeah.
notification that we need to log into Zoom for our live stream. But
Oh,
it was an alert. I guess I set it up. I got nothing.
yeah, it's okay. We're all new here, and I
Probably.
think it's yeah. I pulled it up a second ago, and it looks like it's still working. So
Hey, I, I'm watching. We have one person watching our live stream, and that would be me. I think it's I think I'm the one who's watching.
yeah.
But that's okay. We'll come up with some what do we call it? Some hot topics. But I'm never in the mood to argue with people who just want to argue and name call and slam. And so when we,
See, I just
I,
match energy. Like if I get into a debate with someone and they raise their voice, I raise my voice. If they start calling me names, I start calling them names.
you know
I
what
just
you just said, when that is actually what turned the tide for my conversation with Jason. I used that phrase. He was being a smartass and saying stuff, and he says, "Oh, well, you're not being very whatever. You liberals are supposed to be nice." I don't remember
oh,
some
I fucking hate that shit.
And I came back and I said, "I'm just matching your energy."
Yeah.
Came into this conversation, and that was what made him say, "You know what? You're right." you did match my energy, and I'm sorry, I should have started the conversation differently. So, but that rarely, I mean, let's be
It
honest,
almost never happens ever. I think it's because like, and that's another thing too. I mean, I fucking hate the, oh, aren't liberals supposed to be nice? Not whenever you're not being nice. I mean, I can be nice, but if you're gonna be an asshole, I'm gonna be an asshole back. And it was
Yeah.
like it's like we talked about before. It's like if you're gonna try and bully me, if you're trying to be a little bully, I'm gonna be a bully back. Like I'm not gonna.
Well, I think we confuse being a good person for being a nice person.
Right.
I think that's really what's hurt the Democrats right now is, the nice. Like, eh, we're trying to be inclusive, trying to be helpful, trying to be reasonable and rational while we're getting our ass whipped out on the park, the playground by the bully because no, I'm not going to fight you. That's not the right thing to do. And the bully slams you in the,
Yeah.
into,
Pushes you
so
to the ground and rip and scuffs up your pants. And I mean, but it's the same whenever I get into these conversations with family. I mean, if we're gonna have a civil disagreement, then we can talk about the reasons why we disagree with each other. And I think one of the three things that makes that so hard now is because, like one of it is what you pointed out. It's like, okay, now we're having a moral dilemma, and the other part of it is because whenever family members especially are basically just spouting talking points that they hear on Fox News or OAN or whatever ridiculous place they frequent, and then you come in and you're like, well, that's not true. Well, then they get really defensive, like, yeah, it is. You're like, no, it's really not though.
okay, so if for those of you who are watching this who are desirous of the ass whipping of having a conversation with your family, then I would say this is a professional communication behavior coach, that's the wrong response. Is if you're the Fox News watcher and you say, well, you know what they say about immigrants stealing our jobs. And then that's instead of saying, well, that's not right, because of course, I'm gonna get defensive, even if I know I'm right.
Right.
Okay. So then the better response is, oh, where did you hear that? Oh, where did they get that information?
Yeah, and
You
I've
have patience for that.
right. Well, and I think that's the other part of it too, is if you start doing that, then they get defensive because they don't really have they only have one source for it. And they don't want to say, "Oh, I heard it on Fox News."
That I
Or
find that to
yeah,
be funny because I find that to be true more often than not. They
right.
got Fox News, but they're not going to tell you because they know what people think about Fox News.
Yeah. And so it's like,
It's a lose-lose, but at
yeah,
least you're asking, okay, so where did you hear that? Oh, but you have to be not the problem. The challenge with having these difficult conversations with your family is multifaceted.
right,
A, why? Are you really that desirous, of having that conversation, or is it defensive? Like I come over to your house, you're super conservative, and you want to have the conversation because you're going to try and get your crazy liberal mom to, come over on your side.
right.
None of these are authentic conversations.
Mhm. Yeah, well, I mean, that a lot of it is also I don't know that I disagree that they're authentic conversations. Um, I I do think, okay, this is gonna sound like it's gonna make MAGA sound really bad, but this is what I've noticed. Okay. Um, I don't
Making an observation, then it's not your fault that it makes them look bad.
okay. Have you ever met a real life white supremacist?
Uh, I can say that the short answer is yes, but it's been a long time.
So I used to work with a guy that was a real life white supremacist.
Wow.
And we went to and I didn't know at the time. So we went out to a bar and we were just like, a bunch of us were all shooting the shit and him and I are sitting at the bar. And I don't remember exactly what he said, but it was something that was
Clear.
wildly racist. He says it in a tone that is kind of joking. And I go, what? And he goes, oh yeah, man. And then he like doubles down on it. And I go, are you serious? He goes, nah, man, I'm just kidding.
Because he was testing you.
Yes, and that is what it's like whenever it's this MAGA does the same thing where they will want to talk about politics and they'll like
They don't want
enter
to
it.
debate it. They want to find out who agrees with them.
Yes, they want to circle jerk about it. They don't want to have they don't want to have a discussion. They
Now,
just want to
in their defense, and it's probably not fair, but in their defense, as a liberal, I have done that while we're traveling, like where we are right now. I have done that where I will make a comment testing the waters to see if the person I'm with is a crazy liberal like I am,
right,
if they're not, and you can usually tell from the response, you know. So it's the same thing. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that is a common human behavior to see if you are my tribe. Are you part of my tribe?
right. Well, and I mean it.
But it doesn't justify the fact, let me just say, we need to double down on Nazis are bad, racists are bad, and white people who don't accept the fact that they have privilege. I
Yeah,
cannot seem to explain to people when we're talking about politics, privilege doesn't mean you had it easier. It just means you didn't have it harder.
right.
I don't know why is that? It's like you say this circle, like they're so close to coming full circle.
I think it's because people don't want to don't like the idea of having their struggles undermined. And not that that's what it's doing, but they don't like feeling like all their hard work wasn't hard. And I get it. What we're on the same page because we're not saying that it wasn't hard. We're saying that it could have been harder. I think that they feel like it was hard. It was probably for them the hardest thing they ever did, and they don't like have feeling like that struggle is being undermined. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's because words mean things, and when we're trying to have conversations, like I have had some of the most vehement, passionate, knee-jerk responses when I talk about white privilege, and I am well aware that I've had it, even though my life was very difficult. We struggled tremendously. You know how much we struggled,
Right.
but we struggled less than we would have if we had been a family of color.
Right. And I don't think I disagree. And I think I would say that another part of it is the white guilt aspect. I don't think white guilt is a healthy response to being in a position of privilege.
You know what? I just, for me, and I don't know what the actual official definition is of white guilt. For me, white guilt is I didn't know for so long. I feel badly that I didn't know or I wasn't aware. I'm not, you're probably talking about the white guilt that I should feel guilty because I'm white.
Yeah, yeah. It's like so white guilt by definition is like that you feel responsible as a white person for the historical misfortunes, the historical atrocities
Yeah, yeah.
that white people committed in the past, right? Because you're white, you want to like you feel like personally responsible for that.
Did we?
No, I don't think so. Because
I don't disagree. I mean, I'm
yeah,
just curious, like the logic about that that would be like you feeling guilty about men burning women at the stake.
yeah, and there's so many examples of where people should feel guilty for being white, for being men, for being, I mean, those are really the big ones.
Gotta
But
feel, I think we're gonna feel guilty about anything. We need to feel guilty about ignorance. That I
right,
didn't try, not that I didn't know, but that I didn't try to know sooner, that I didn't try to understand sooner. But at some point, I think we 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 can do all we can do is the best we can do.
yeah.
So
I put a, and I agree. I put a thread up on post or a post up on a thread up on, a post up on Threads a while ago about kind of exactly that. Like there are some people that they live their life in ignorance, and then whenever you know they kind of have they complete the circle, then they feel bad for some of the things that they did.
I mean, let's be honest. I see posts come up on Facebook that I posted 10 years ago, and it's cringeworthy. I
Well,
mean, literally, I know that I go like this.
yeah. Oh,
Okay.
and
But I
I
know better, so I'm doing better.
and that would be the part of it that I would say is I don't think that that actually corresponds specifically to political ideas. I think that that's just our lives, right? Like if I look, I see pictures of myself
I have
when I
more.
was 13 and
I
what
hope
I wore, and I'm like, so it's not even like
But we should have cringe moments when we look back at how we used to
Yeah,
behave.
because it shows growth.
We've grown, we've developed, but when we're trying to teach our children, it's so funny. No, it's so ironic when I'm quilting, as you can see in my quilt room, and it's just quiet and I'm sewing, and I just think, this could just be so easy. Life could just be so easy, and we've made it so difficult. And um, I am I am mystified when I think, why is it a bad thing to think about making reparations when we talk about the Black community? Because when you look at the things that have happened over time, I mean, systemic racism is real. When you look at the, I don't know if I can articulate it well, and because it's a live stream, I'm super, aware of, I don't want to misspeak, but just bear with me. How many health issues are generational stemming from slavery? How many health and mental health issues are generational stemming from Jim Crow? So I think when the Black community talks about reparations, they're not talking about reparations just because you're white and I'm Black. They're talking about their mental, physical, financial situation is what it is because of generations of white people doing the things they do. So it's
I'm not going to say, I wasn't going to, I'm not, I don't necessarily disagree with the idea of reparations. We paid reparations to Japanese families that we put in internment camps during World War II. We've paid reparations to a number of people for a number of reasons. And for some reason, it seems like the reparations, um, to the Black community are such a controversial topic. And I think it's because of the way that we talk about paying those reparations. Because I think,
good
well,
point.
and because some people are under, and maybe it's just because this is how the right sold it, are under the impression that the only way we could ever pay reparations is if we send a paycheck to every African American person in the country. And it's like, or like, and then there's like the question of, well, how many of those people were actually, are now we got to go check their bloodline. Like there's all these hyperbolic arguments. Whenever really what we could do is, if we wanted to get, is that we could talk about paying reparations to entire communities, right? To build infrastructure, to better schools. Like there's so many different ways that we could provide reparations in a way that is not like that is not
Well, the
so
whole
sub,
point, I
so
mean,
like subjective.
the whole point of reparations are to make things right.
Right.
How do we
And if we
think?
and we know that schools in Black communities aren't, not always, but they're not always doing well. We know that a lot of the time these places don't get infrastructure, like they don't have infrastructure upgrades because the cities don't want to pay for.
I remember just recently reading a story about when integration came, the end
Yeah.
of segregation. There was a school district, and I probably am going to get the state wrong, a school district in Oklahoma that shut down for 5 years because they did not want to integrate.
You know, you know, we you know Mansfield. Did you know that they were the last city in Texas to integrate? The
Yes.
last one. That was whenever I learned that, that was a thing that I was like, wow, it actually kind of makes sense.
Well, and I want to make a point. Sometimes the temptation is people watch shows like this, and we're talking about integration, we're talking about white supremacists, we're talking about anti-Semitism, and oh, well, you know, that isn't really happening right now. But you and I, just a couple weeks ago, had somebody that I had to report to YouTube who was making anti-Semitic comments about me, saying, well, oh, you must be a Jew, or, you know,
Yeah, that was actually crazy.
what? So I think it's important that just because you don't experience it, this is what I think tends to happen when we're trying to teach our children about politics. You can be on the right and you're teaching about, pro-life, you're teaching about, it's ironic they want to put the Ten Commandments in the school instead of the Beatitudes, or, the Sermon on the Mount, or anything like that, but you're teaching in black and white, and this is where just because you don't experience it doesn't mean it doesn't happen. And that's what I think we need to teach our children is fairness isn't just about what happens to you, it's about what happens to the other person.
Yeah, and I'll say just because this is just my opinion and it's not a popular one and I don't care. Um, I I think that if you want to raise your children to be religious, you want to raise them to live by the Ten Commandments, as a parent, that is your prerogative. I think where I start to have problems with it is whenever they're trying to integrate it into all schools. Because to me, now what you're doing is you're stepping outside your responsibility as a parent and trying to impose what things that you should be doing onto the schools. And I get really frustrated with everyone. I don't give a shit what your political leaning is. If we're talking about teaching things in schools, I feel like that should be taught at home. That we should be putting a lot more pressure on parents to be more involved. I don't. It's just the way I feel about a number of things. It's like if you don't want your kids to get sexual education, I think the school should teach it, and you should just be able to. You should have to sign a permission slip. Like I remember permission slips. I've never seen a permission slip.
No. Well, this is the cycle behaviorally. This is a social cycle that I think the phrase is a circle jerk where, the responsibility keeps getting passed. We want this to happen, but we don't want you to do it this way. We want the things, but no, not like that. And can't we just teach reading, writing, and arithmetic in the schools? Well, we could, but you didn't like how we were, doing it, right?
Yeah,
So when we're talking about religion in the schools, see, this is the slippery slope when, golly,
we have religious schools,
you
and now we have voucher
taught in
programs.
the
So
school. That's what church is for.
yeah,
That's why you take your kid to church on Sunday, because that's where they get their religious education. But when you start talking about the Ten Commandments in the school, and again, my question comes back, why do you want the fucking Ten Commandments in the school and not the Sermon on the Mount?
right,
Why do you want the rules from the Old Testament instead of the new behavioral guidelines from the New Testament?
right. If
Wait
and
out.
if the covenant's the same, if it's the same covenant between the Old and New Testament, why are we going for the oldest part of it and not the newest part of it?
Just saying. But again, this is what tends to happen, and I see it happen. The more conservative, and this can happen in the reverse with liberals, the more conservative people get, the more they want to control other people. Conservatism tends to lean towards judgment. I'm conservative. I have to follow all these rules. So by God, you're going to have to follow all these rules too.
Right.
And so then the focus becomes less on what I'm doing and more on what you're doing.
Yeah, because in their mind they're already doing what they should be.
No, I would even say it isn't even it gives a person a sense of moral superiority to be policing other people. It's a hall monitor mentality. If I police you, then you're not going to happen. I mean, every accusation is a confession.
I say
Comes
that all the time.
that comes from observing Christians who are accused, like the preacher who stands up and talks about pedophilia ends up being caught with a bunch of pornography on his computer. The
Yeah, I do think I do. I took this goes back to a thing you said earlier, where it's um, like religion, and at least in my experience, has always been fear and guilt. Um,
100%.
like I don't think I can't ever think of looking back, right? Like in the moment, I enjoyed the community. There were things that I liked, but like when I would be like in the solace of my own head, like or when I'd be like at home alone, there was just a lot of fear and guilt about the way I would behave.
Let's remember that's religion, not spirituality.
Right.
Religions are constructed to control the masses.
Yeah.
And so, of
It's
course,
that the old Soviet a line of like, it's the opiate of the masses.
well, it is, and I have zero problem if you choose to be religious, if you choose to be spiritual, but the tendency, no, I have zero problem if you choose to be religious or if you choose to be spiritual, full stop. The problem becomes my problem when your religion then intersects with your politics and you want to make, oh, there's a thing I found, and you want to make your religion a guideline that I have to live by.
Right.
So there's this thing, and if I can find it, it'll be pretty awesome. That just because something is good doesn't mean everybody has to do it, and just because something's bad, just because you think something's bad doesn't mean everybody has to stop doing it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, and that's like, I mean, yeah, we see that right now with with like the conservative politics that they're
Oh, here it is. You can be in favor of something but opposed to it being mandatory. You can be against something but not in favor of it being banned. Smart people probably understand that. But when you're operating in your lizard brain, I want you to compare and contrast. Uh, the moderate conservative and the moderate liberal. You know, we can go all the range, you know, the crazy right wing or the
right.
crazy. But if we're looking at the moderates, I think everybody wants the same thing. We just want a government that works. We want a government that's fair. We want a government that spends money in reasonable and rational ways. Then when you go over to the far right, then you want your government to control people's behavior, and you don't want the people that you don't think deserve things to get those things. And I mean, if you look at it now, the argument is, I mean, how do you explain to your child that there are people who say, let's get all the immigrants out of the country because our people can't get the help they need, with a government that just voted to take the help away from the people?
Oh, that's a hill I'll die on whenever I get into the debates with these with I was gonna say with these people with MAGA conservatives is they I don't want to send money to I don't want to be sending money to Ukraine because I want to keep money in the US to help American citizens. And I go, well, how are we helping American citizens? We just passed a bill that
They don't deserve that. The ones that you're wanting to help are the people, they're the American citizens on Medicare, Medicaid, who are just scamming the system, and they're
yeah,
including
and then you can get
scamming.
and again these are there are and if you don't know these arguments are really easy to defeat. Okay, fair enough. Then so what states are bringing in the most of these benefits? Do they know? They never know. And I'll tell you, it's red states like Mississippi and Alabama. They're pulling in most of it. And you know who's paying for it? Bigger states like California, New York, and Texas. Like,
100%. And the I love data and research. So the Office of Congressional the Oversight and Budget.
oh yeah,
I just did some snooping around about how many immigrants get undocumented immigrants get Medicare, Medicaid. That would be zero. But how many of them, you know, if you go to an emergency room in the United States, they have a responsibility to help you. And so if you're an undocumented immigrant, then you can get Medicare, Medicaid, no, Medicaid, I'm sorry, to pay. So from 2019 to 2022, 0.04% of the budget for Medicaid went to undocumented immigrants getting emergency care. So I'm like, your argument is invalid. So, you know, how do you explain to, you know, children your beliefs without, you know, indoctrinating them? Because I believe that the current platform of the Republican Party is based on hate and fear. They hate everything that's not them.
yeah.
You know, DEI, woke, you know, gender differences, climate change, all the things, right? So it's hate and fear. So how do you explain or have a reasonable conversation with a family member that's bought into that? I don't think it's possible.
Um, yeah, I mean it might be impossible unless again unless they're willing to bridge some gap, unless they're willing to concede and they don't even need to concede their opinions on a thing, but unless they're willing to concede, the biggest thing I noticed is definitions. Like the hardest thing that I find whenever you get into discussions with anyone, but specifically family members, is like trying to agree on the facts. And if we can't agree on what the facts are, then we can't have a realistic conversation.
I mean, there's a friend of mine named Russ that I've tried to have multiple conversations with. We can't even agree on the topic.
Yeah,
The issue is Supreme Court ruling. Are they in charge or are they not? Or the issue is it's conspiracy theories and how far down the rabbit hole do you go? I mean, we can't even agree on the topic sometimes.
yeah. Well, and that's just one of those shitty like kind of debate tactic things. I'm gonna argue the definitions of these
I
things,
don't even
not the things
that he does.
themselves.
I don't even think he does it on purpose. I think that that's the circle conversation that, I mean, that's the circling the drain thinking that he's bought into.
Right.
So, but again, my question then becomes, what's the point? What is the point of having a conversation with a family member, say, who's MAGA, or a family member who thinks Trump is the bomb, or a family member who thinks Elon Musk is brilliant? I don't understand the end game. I can see on social media you've pulled me over to the dark side, that having these, conversations on social media, it's not because of the person you're having the conversation with,
Right.
it's reading. Uh, but in a home environment, if my dad or my mom is like MAGA or a Trump lover, there's not necessarily somebody who's going to be benefiting from me trying to have a rational
Yeah,
conversation.
unless you got a big ass family, just like a fucking
Well,
monster family, like 40 people at the dinner table watching you and your
I don't
dad
know.
duke it out.
I think maybe, honestly, I think the conversation, instead of how to have conversations with your family members about MAGA or Trump or whatever, is how do you set healthy boundaries with your MAGA family members?
Yeah, well, I'll I I was watching what was the show? It was I was watching the debate between, you don't know who these people are, but they're big online personalities. It's Not So Erudite and the guy's name is Nacho. It's like talk anyway. They're on the, you know who Tim Pool is, the Tim Pool show. So they're on his show. They're having a debate, and Tim Pool says like, oh yeah, all I hear about is like, liberals, they stop talking to their family about these topics because they get into fights. And what I've found is it's more the other way. I kind of feel like what winds up happening more often than not is you start getting into these discussions at home with your family, and then you're like, like the whole relationship crumbles. So I'm saying all that because to bring it back around to like, if you're going to have these debates, you have to decide, is the engagement because you are is it worth losing your relationship over with someone, or not? And then
I think it's even beyond that, because I've severed quite a few, and I mean quite a few relationships with friends, not family,
yeah,
because I had to ask myself, what are we disagreeing about? If we're disagreeing about how our tax dollars should be spent on roads or, that kind of thing, that's one conversation. But if we're having conversations about whether or not it's okay to snatch people up off the street because you canceled their visa 2 days ago and they don't even know,
yeah.
uh,
I'm
you know,
sorry.
that's okay. These are moral issues. I actually severed a decades-long friendship with somebody before the election, I think. I think it was before the election, because her commentary was, they were talking about trans rights, and she goes, "Well, that doesn't apply to me." And something snapped in my brain. I'm like, well, fuck that noise, because if, that's your perspective, then you literally don't care about the humanity of those people. So when you say, back to what prompted me to run down this rabbit hole, when you say, is it worth it? Then, okay, do I want to sever a relationship with my mother or father because of this? Well, I don't know. I don't think you and I can answer that question.
Right. That's actually that's how I would answer it. I think that's a subjective decision. I think that if You have to
I
decide
just think the
if,
totality. I mean, are your
yeah.
parents, is this the only thing y'all disagree on? Do y'all get along fine, except for the fact that they think Trump is the bomb? I mean, there are too many dynamics to be able to say you just should cut off your family.
Yeah. Yeah, and I will say, it's interesting whenever you see the people encounter these issues online because then a lot of the comments under the explanation are like, "Oh, you should just cut them off," and I don't think that's a real solution.
Cannot give advice. I will say there are too many variables and there's too many unanswered questions on social media. Can you and I give guidelines? Sure, but it's still based on the fact that for the most part, our family agrees.
Yeah,
We
and what
don't think we even have any uh any family members that are full on MAGA or Trump lovers.
maybe not on your side. I'm
I
not.
don't respond to any children who believe.
Well, no. Sorry. What I mean is like on my dad's side, there are some people
Okay, yeah. Well, yes.
who are posting on Facebook pretty regularly with their
I'm
very strong
sure
opinion.
I'm pretty sure I don't have any relationships with my ex-in-laws.
Yeah, yeah, I know. But
I'm spared from that.
yeah,
So
well, and I would say I choose not to engage with it with them because I don't want it to create the
no,
potential for hostile
so this is
relationships
the
like
question.
for my
So
dad.
honestly, you're living out my question. What's the point?
Yeah,
And I think we have to ask that question. What is the point? Why are we going to engage? I don't want to engage in these conversations to prove a point. I don't need to prove a point.
right.
The history is proving the point for us.
Yeah.
I'm not keeping you away from your afternoon siesta.
No, and that it's actually really annoying because I'm just sitting here and I'm
Yeah, right? You're sitting
keep
there with your
yawning.
new microphone. I mean, come on, we're live.
Oh yeah, I got it. We didn't even talk about it.
I know
Uh,
we're live streaming at your request and you're yawning. I'm like, come on,
I'm
dude.
like, oh God, this fucking topic.
Hey, we
No,
have somebody watching. I don't know who you are, but hello.
no, hi.
One other person is watching. So yay.
Nice. Yeah, I had a concurrent viewer show up and leave, so they must not have liked our conversation.
Yeah, right. That's okay. Got a new subscriber. We're at 79. One
Hell
more,
yeah.
one more will be at 80. Remember the days when we were
Um,
like, we have 20 subscribers.
yeah, I know. It was so exciting. And even though we probably knew every one of them, it was still exciting.
The funny thing is that, we're doing this for posterity. We literally don't care about the numbers, but it's still kind of fun to see them creeping up a little
Well,
bit.
yeah, I mean, it feels good. It feels good to be heard. I mean, at the end of the day, we've said
I
before
love
we'll do it either way,
it.
but
I will absolutely say I love it when we have people come on who have watched the video. I
yes.
I don't want any more of this. I mean, we've had to delete. I'll be honest, I have no time for that nonsense if you're going to just come on and be full on full bore hateful, but I like the thoughtful conversations. One of these
Yes.
days we'll take calls, but I'm not there yet.
Yeah. That's always an interesting dynamic whenever you start bringing strangers into the the call to
I can say that I
I don't think there's
literally
anything wrong with it.
desired to do that, but we could stage our friends and have our friends call.
Yes. And have
Our
them hop in and just be like, "I just wanted to let you guys know that I'm a really big fan," and that's all. Have fun. Just fucking leave and
I just called to tell you how great you are. It'll be kind of
yeah.
like Caroline Levitt's second press conference of the day, where she has the new media in there that say, "Oh, you guys are so great. You're doing
You
such a
guys are doing such a good. I'm gonna ask you this really softball question. Did did President Trump did he wear a red or a blue tie today? Because I really love when he wears a blue tie.
he's so smart. He's so smart. These first 100 days have just been glorious."
It's just been so fantastic.
I know, right? Okay, well, I think for our first podcast live stream, we did good.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and I love doing this. I started doing the thing where when I do the afternoon my afternoon live streams, I just start watch. I just have like YouTube up now, watching the stuff, watching the content I consume, and I'm always pausing it, like yelling at my screen, like, "Let me tell you what. Let me fucking tell you something about what this asshole just said."
And another thing.
Yeah. So this is a lot. This is a lot more reasonable, I feel. Because
Well, and for our first one, we didn't do a difficult topic. We just kind of worked out all the technical difficulties. So
yeah.
next time we could do some nitty-gritty stuff.
Yeah, well, and I think to just I guess summarize, I think you're right. I think it's never worth having the conversation, really. Unless
So to
I
be, I mean, to be clear, my my policy is I don't need to talk politics with you at all. If we agree, there's no point in talking because we agree. And so there's no point in hashing out our agreement.
right,
If I disagree with you, unless you are thoughtfully considering, changing your perspective or you're honestly curious about my perspective and you want to have a civil conversation, I have zero desire to argue with you about that at all either.
right.
Um,
I
so,
think yeah, I think the difference in my mind, the difference between a debate and a discussion is are we having this conversation in good faith? So I think like whenever you and I disagree, we tend to do it civilly and we tend to do it um kind of exactly like I just said, we tend to do it in good faith, like with a willingness to understand each other. Whereas
or
whenever you
let's be honest, it's like, okay, what,
yeah.
why?
Yeah, and conversely, whenever I debate with people, particularly strangers, um, it tends to just be about trying to like own the other person. And I mean,
And
you know,
I'm so over that because
yeah,
on Threads, I get a ridiculous amount of engagement compared to um, Facebook and Instagram. Like I don't like 10,000 views and a few thousand. It's like who are you people? And
yeah,
inevitably people who come on, they either agree with me and I do not need to get into a big conversation if we agree. If you disagree and you start the conversation by slinging mud and talking about stupid liberals, okay, you've already identified that this is not going to be a worthy investment of my time. So to summarize, how to talk to your kids, how to talk to your family. Talking to your kids is about getting them to engage in critical thinking, doing their own research, coming at you with, yeah, but what about?
hmm
Because I don't want you, I mean, I didn't want y'all to think the way I thought just because that's how I thought.
right,
You guys always were, but what about? And then with our family, again, what's the point? I think the conversation about how to talk to your family about politics is really more defensive. How do you manage the family that wants to pounce on you because you disagree with them, because you're the liberal? And if you're the liberal family and you have a conservative family member, don't be the ones who, you're not going to turn anybody to your side by pouncing on them.
yeah. Well, I mean, that is definitely something that I feel like the left Democrats are notorious for. It's one of the reasons.
Right?
Yeah, yeah, it's probably one of much like being too nice. Like it's like Congress is too nice, and then the voters are too uh hostile. So it's like we have a very poor mix. Uh, you know.
Well, I think the question is, what are we trying to accomplish? If I just want to come over to my family's house and have a nice dinner, then you're talking about boundaries. Hey, let's not talk about politics.
Yeah.
I just don't even see the point. So, if you were looking for guidelines on how to talk to your family about politics, I guess we failed you. But if you were looking for how to manage a political conversation with your family, I think we did okay.
Yeah, I think we hit on that.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining us today for Hopeful Resistance. Uh, if you have ideas for what you want us to talk about or topics or guests or whatever, we are nothing if not open-minded.
Yes.
Because there are so
Oh,
many
many
things.
things. Yeah.
All right. Well, until we get together again, dear friends, bye for now. And then I don't know how to stop the live stream.
So one thing I would love to help you with, because if you go look at mine right now, it's not down. It has like an outro screen, which is like it says like catch you next time, stream over, and then like I let that play for like 30 seconds to a minute before I turn it off.
Yeah, but see okay, so listen to this. I'm gonna turn on the
Are we having this conversation in good faith? So I think like whenever you
that's
and
the
I disagree,
delay
we
I
tend to
have
do it
between our
civilly. We tend to
conversation and
do it
YouTube.
um Okay. Exactly like I just said, we tend to do it in good faith. Like
So I can't end it on YouTube because you're still talking.
I gotcha.
I mean,
Well,
we're
I would
talking
I
a 2-minute delay here.
and I wonder if you stop it, does it stop the stream overall or does it I'm not sure. I'm just spitballing ideas.
I could not know less about the process.
Okay.
Um, because
Because I know if you go watch mine right now, I'm pretty sure yeah, it's on the outro screen.
well, what I think I'm gonna do is once the see, I'm not sure how to end it from the live stream. What is it saying here?
And right now, I'm pretty sure yeah, it's on the outro screen.
Oh,
I've caught up.
well, what I think I'm gonna do is once the see, I'm not sure how to end it from the live stream. What is it saying here?
And right now, I'm pretty sure yeah, it's on the Yeah, and if you click live at the bottom, it should catch it up.
Oh, it did. I think I'm gonna do. Oh, we're real caught up now. So how do I stop it? Stop it. I don't know how to stop it. I'm serious. I don't know how to stop it right now.
There's not just like a thing that lets you.
If there is. Huh. Wonder if I do it, stop it here. Share
Yeah, I would guess stop it on Zoom.
tools. No, 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 no apps. Where did,